So the break was the first. It's funny, for most of my books, I do write on a computer and have like a whole document, and then I have different ideas kind of scattered on my desktop with titles and like just some brainstorms and things like that. But the break was the first time this happened to me. Actually, I had a dream about it, and then and I've never had that before, and I haven't had it. It hasn't happened since. But I dreamt about this woman. And she was like in this beautiful room, and there was a piano and wallpaper. And then this scene comes back in the book. She actually dreams it herself. And I saw this, and I saw her. She had blonde, very blonde, like white blonde hair, and she was like just like clawing at the wallpaper and crying out for someone to give her back her baby. And which sounds really dramatic, and it was. I remember waking from the dream and just feeling like really unsettled, just being like, "What was that?" But feeling like I understood. I don't know. I just felt like I understood, like, again, what she wanted and why she was yelling that, and then that was the only thing I really understood about the book, sort of the reason that she was asking that question and why she was in the room. And then I kind of wrote towards that part of I just sort of, that was the part I knew. And so then I started writing it. And there were times when I thought that one was too dark too. And then I was able to dip sort of back in, sometimes you need like a week or something. But I remember calling my agent and being like, this is really dark. And then kind of just being like, but I really wanted to write it. I love that character. Of all the characters, she's the most like me. Like people always ask, like, are you in this book? And I'm like, not really. And then for this one, for the break, I always feel like Rowan, who's my character, who's in her 30s and has a baby. And then she alternates telling the story with June, who's her babysitter, who's just come from upstate New York and moved down to the city to be an actress. So I relate to both of them. I have a lot of similarities with both of them. And I think that that's the only time I've really done that. The other characters that I've written, I don't feel like, oh, this is me at this stage, or, I guess I just thought with that one too, sort of like we're talking about with the open house setting. I thought it would be interesting to write a thriller set against that really sort of tender phase of when you've just had a baby and you have whatever you have going on with your own mental health, and then you love this baby more than anything. And then I thought, like, layering a crime on top of that, obviously in real life, would be incredibly unfortunate. And for a thriller, felt like it would be a space to write in that could be kind of just interesting and hard and challenging. I feel like I know Southport a little bit well enough to write about it. Although my husband will tell you that I was writing as though the waves were crashing. And my husband read a draft. He was like, Katie, we've been to Southport so many times. He's like, it doesn't crash. It's like it's not that kind of ocean. So, you always, I thank God have readers that read before a book comes out, because the things that sometimes I miss, thank God for other people. But I love Southport. And then Waring Ridge, the town where Georgia, my main character, lives, is very much like my town, and inspired by my town. And I got the idea when, sort of over the pandemic, one of my friends decided to rent her own home out. And it's like this beautiful white house in the country. I just love it. And she rented it out and then she decided that, like, she and her family would go away. Like, they would use the money kind of from the rental and go away. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, what a setting for a thriller, that like another family, people do it all the time, right? Like, it's such a time for vacation rentals. And I thought, what a good setting for a thriller, that this would just unfold at someone else's home. And so the vacation rental was really quite fun to write. For that one, same thing. I didn't know how it was going to end, but I had a twist that I knew when I started out. And I generally find if I have a twist and I know what the twist is, I can write toward that. So I start with Georgia, my main character, and she's closer to my age. She's a little younger. She's in her late 30s. And she has a preteen daughter, Millie, and she's been feeling some distance in her marriage. And she just feels like her daughter's been a little anxious. They've moved to this beautiful house in Waring Ridge because it was her family's home. But the house is kind of filled with a lot of sadness and a lot of memories. And her mother died there, and also her nanny died there 4 years later. So the house is sort of filled with this tragic past, but it's a beautiful home and she loves it and she feels very tied to it. But there's sort of some talk at the beginning of the book, like you wonder as the reader, is the house, like, what memories is the house itself holding on to, which I think is a really interesting just way of sort of looking at spaces. And I don't know, I don't know what I think about it. I kind of know what I think about it, which seems like it's a possibility, but that's certainly, who knows what goes on, like in houses where something has happened. So anyway, so I thought that would be a cool space to kind of write in. And she really feels like she wants her family to get a break and to sort of escape the town and the house for a bit. So she decides, okay, she's going to Airbnb her house out, and they're all going to go to Southport, which is not that far away. It's only about a 30-minute drive from her. And it's very different in feel and aesthetic. So you can sort of feel the difference when you're in Southport and when you're in this fictional town of Waring Ridge, which is more like the cool woodlands. So she rents her house, she puts it on the market, and this young, beautiful photographer who's 26 decides that she wants to rent it. And that's the other point of view that you hear from in the book. And so you understand why she wants to rent it and why she wants to escape the city. She's a photographer in the city for this very like elite magazine, fashion magazine. And she just wants the summer to, you sort of understand as you read the book why she needs to get away and sort of what her plan is. And basically just, all hell breaks loose. I mean, Anna's that character. She comes up to take over the rental sort of like one sunny morning in August, and Georgia goes to Southport, and just literally all hell breaks loose. And it was a really fun thriller to write, actually.